Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to your instant reaction pod. I'm your host, Sean McIntosh, joined as always by Caleb Adams. We're back. Serie A is back. Lazio is back. Match day one. Como Lazio. We've got a ton to dive into. But before anything, Caleb, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great in terms of everything outside of Lazio right now.
Well,
As,
Lazio is back to true form. We're back where we left off. Extremely disappointed and with a ton of questions and another underperforming match that leaves us wondering why we keep doing this to ourselves. But like a sick, demented relationship that we keep coming back to, we are here to chat about this match and this one. Man, it was brutal to get through. I'll say
was
this about our Lazio: often inconsistent. Today was a match from start to finish that
yeah.
really didn't change much, and we kept waiting for something, and it never happened. So, let's dive into this where we do, and that's the starting 11, which had some surprises, maybe not some surprises. Right off the bat, in goal, big surprise. Sadi plants his flag and elects Provedel as the starting goalkeeper. Now we'll touch on his performance and whether or not that lasts, but it's a big statement from Sarri. Nuno Tavares with that left back role, Profsgaard in place of a Romagnoli who was out due to red card, Mario Gila, and then another, we call it a surprise, but Lazzari getting the nod over Marusic. And then in the midfield, you've got Dele Bashiru, who we all kind of thought would be in that starting role today. Cataldi playing in that regista role over Rovella. No controversy here because Rovella had been out due to the birth of his child, coming in late to meet the team at Como. Gendouzi in that final midfield spot. And then your attacking trio, Tati leading the line, Zaccagni on the left, Cancellieri to your right. Again, given Isaacson's absence due to illness, no real surprise there. I guess I'll start with the one question for you, Caleb. What was the biggest surprise, or did anything shock you when you saw this starting 11?
Honestly, no, not even the Providel selection. I anticipated on our preview. I said I could very much see Sadi sort of going back to what he trusts and knows, which is yes, he knows Mandas, but Providel was the starter for Lazio at that time during Sadi, and we had a really good season with him as well. So I don't necessarily I'm not necessarily like too bitter or angry, upset about Sadi choosing Providel. I understand him coming back, why he would go with that decision, but it's also like, did you not, maybe check tape or review the season prior of, what were some players that were kind of informed doing well? And it was very clear Providel has declined drastically from the Providel he knows from his previous tenure. So aside from that, Ravella was initially surprising until we found out that it was because of a newborn. But no, I think we actually pretty nailed what we anticipated this lineup to look like. No real surprises.
Yep. Well, this one got off to a strong start for Como. I mean, 5 minutes in, Profsgaard's in a position where he has to make a big diving tackle, a big block, blocks a shot in the box, and then in the 24th minute, a diving Provedel save did come up big there. I noted in that first 30 minutes or so, Lazio particularly sloppy on the ball, a lot of self-inflicted turnovers. Como really sustained this high intense pressure for the entirety of the match. And then 30 minutes in, Zaccagni picks up a yellow, kind of a silly diving tackle for him, a little bit unnecessary. And then in the third, it takes us 35 minutes to finally gain our first spell of possession that finally leads to our first shot. It's a Nuno cross. Cancellieri in the box does well to controls it, drops it off to Guendouzi, who has a really, really weak shot on frame, but it gives us a little bit of hope that maybe we can get into the match. It's not until really the 39th minute that even Totti gets his first real touch on the ball. We get out of half 0-0, no stoppage time. It's a boring half, particularly for a Laziale, but we kind of escaped that first half. No changes at halftime. We come into this hoping that maybe we got through the weather, we got through the storm, and not a ton changes. You do have the breakthrough from Como, 47th minute. Nico Paz turns Nuno. This is where we see the downside of Nuno. It's defensively, and then we can argue it's a lot of what we saw from Provedel last year, right? Like maybe makes a big save, but then gets a little unfortunate. Like one of those ones that for us we're gonna feel a little bit differently than somebody who isn't a Laziale, right? I know I was kind of texting back and forth with a Como fan, and he was like, "Oh, and that's I'm like Provedel," and they don't see it that way, but we just kind of know that. Yeah, maybe in a vacuum, it's not Provedel's fault. He gets a foot on it. It's a bit unlucky, but that's a lot of what we saw last year. It's like, man, when you kind of need that big save, that moment for whatever reason, he wasn't able to come up big in that.
And I'll add to that too. Like you just look at his reaction. Provedel's reaction when that ball goes in. It's not a reaction of what is the team doing. It's very much he puts his head in his arms like this, which is a complete show of like, I messed up. Like he knows he could have done better. So I think even just the way Provedel reacts to that tells you that he even believes he was at fault for that goal.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. I think it's harsh to say at fault. I think it's harsh to say at fault, because again, like I don't know. It's a little bit of being unlucky. I don't know that it was that you can blame him for that goal.
I just know another keeper that has shown more quality consistently. We would be saying, "Oh, he saves that." Like, is that a savable shot or not?
No, it's a savable shot, but there's a difference between a savable shot and him being at fault.
Okay,
like, you know what I mean?
I have seen this poor pairing for a whole season last season,
which is why it hits harder for us.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. Again, it hits harder because if we hadn't had the context of last season, I think we look at it and go, that's just unlucky. That's unlucky.
That's fair.
Like it's unlucky. But because we have the context of last season, we go, Manda saves that. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I don't want to say it's on him. Again, Nuno should have done better. He got turned.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's where, like, again, I'm with you, but that's because we had the context. I'm texting a Como fan, and he's like, "That's not on, right?" Like, that's harsh. When I said Provedel, he's like, that's harsh." So and it's just one of those ones where you look at it and go, "Not again." Like, is this going to happen again? So nothing really changes throughout this one, despite subs coming in, hoping that we kind of change the game. We see Pedro and Marusic come in for Cancellieri and Lazzari. We do have glimpses, some moments where, particularly down the left side between Nuno and Zaccagni, they start to kind of create something. Zaccagni in the 58th minute plays a nice ball across to Totti, who can't quite get there. And then in the 63rd minute, the breakthrough, a long ball played, Totti holding his run and breaks in a really well timed run, particularly with that high line. And I'm seeing the one-on-one, and Caleb, I don't know how you thought. I for sure thought Totti was going to miss it. Thought it was too much time.
Totti,
you had no doubt. You're crazy.
I had zero doubt.
I was like, he is. And you know what? I think he got a little bit lucky. He like, he didn't
Nah,
play it.
come
He
on.
didn't
There's
pick a
no
spot.
the way he controlled that ball out of the air.
He was no,
That was
he did.
money,
But the controlling the ball in the air, those are the things he does well. It's the finish. I
and
thought
he
for
finished it.
sure he wasn't going to finish. It slips in between the keeper's legs.
That's a great
And I
finish.
think to
Low and
myself,
hard.
okay, great. I thought it was offside in the moment. I thought it was offside. I'm waiting for the whistle. And then obviously we eventually see the replay and it's deemed offside and really heartbreaking because had the refs blew the whistle immediately again, I thought it was off. But then you see it and you're like, man, he times his run
Yeah,
quite damn near perfect.
it
And
was
it's what I
close. Yeah.
hate about the game right now. It is something that I'm really, really big on changing that rule. I think you're talking about centimeters and the way their body positions are. It's like the slight edge of his shoulder. We're talking about centimeters of the
What's
shoulder being
crazy is
off
about this rule is like both of his legs are behind the defender.
or behind the defender. It's insane.
Both of his legs. The only part is your shoulder. Like I understand if your legs are past the defender, there is an advantage. You'll have a half a step,
Of course.
advantage. But when your legs are not just behind, but like well behind, like his body was positioned pretty diagonal, and he was behind that player. What advantage are you gaining from that?
No, it's criminal, absolutely criminal, and in typical Lazio fashion, right? It doesn't go our way, and then shortly after, we award Como a free kick, and Nico Paz, the wonder kid that he is, brilliantly strikes it. It's 2-0 Como, and we really don't see a lot of fight from Lazio. It's again, it was pretty consistent. It was sloppy throughout. I will say late in the match, I did question whether or not Como's keeper played the ball with his hands outside of the box. I thought it was a little bit outrageous that we didn't even get a look. This happened, I think, in the 90th minute. Had we been awarded a pen and convert, we still got 4 or so minutes of stoppage time. But look, at the end of the day, Lazio completely dominated. Taking a look at the statistics, it is 64% possession to Lazio's 36. Now, I will say, in a lot of that first half, while Lazio had 10%, 15% possession, Como wasn't doing a ton with it. But in the end, they found their 2 goals. Expected goals 1.54 for Como, 0.21 for Lazio, 19 total shots for Como to Lazio's 5. 6 of those on target for Como, only 1 on target for Lazio, which was that early soft attempt from Guendouzi. Como with 1 big chance, Lazio with no chances. Ultimately, in the end, on paper, it was pretty clear. So, Caleb, I say all that to ask, what are your 3 words to describe this match?
Yeah, my 3 words were disappointed in disjointedness. I don't even know that's a word, disjointedness. I was really disappointed because we can talk about the individual players. We can talk about how the mistake Provedel made, how our midfield was just abysmal for the most part, the offsides, whatever. But I think the team was hurt. I think the individual performances were hurt because I don't know about you, but I didn't really see what our game plan was. Like what was Sadi trying to implement in this match? How were we, like for me, I saw Como's side, and I want to give a lot of credit to Como because they were excellent today. And not just were they excellent tactically, but also and they also had the work ethic behind it. When I watched Como play and I watched us play today, it was night and day. You have one team that had what seemed a very clear understanding of what they had to do. Like they had a game plan for this team and they executed it beautifully. Not only did Fabregas prepare them for the match, but the players are up for it. And definitely seemed bought into what Fabregas is doing. But I was really disappointed because Sadi, yes, has not been given new players, and we probably definitely need upgrades in a few positions across every line. However, you have the advantage of going an entire preseason with the team. You go an entire preseason. You have no new players sort of blowing things up. A lot of these players you had already played with how are we the ones that look like a team that's just been put together? I was just really disappointed in that. That's the biggest thing. My takeaway from this match was how are we not better prepared for this match? I can't see any. There's nothing in this match where I was like, oh, okay, so that's what Sadi's trying to do. Okay, I understand like how he's trying to get more out of the players, or I understand sort of like some of the rhythms and the particular sequences of play. Like I see that. I can't recall one moment in this game where I'm like, oh, so that's what we're trying to do. We're just sucking at executing it. We had one good spell at the end of like the first half. It was kind of like, okay, maybe things are kind of turning around a bit. I just thought that was more so Tavares and Zaccagni just kind of trying to make something happen on that left side and combine.
And
But
that was I mean, look, once that happened, because I agree, especially in that first 30, 35 minutes where there was zero idea. And then once we started to see a little bit of life down that left side, I thought, okay, like that's the game plan. And whether it was it came from Sadi or it was just Nuno and Zaccagni willing it, I thought, okay, it's working. That's our game plan. Like continue to do that. There's obviously something that's working, and we saw a lot of that last year, like when it came down to it. And so I thought, okay, let's continue to do that, and then you just build everything around it. Whether that is, hey, Nuno or Zaccagni, you just attack once you get down there, get in the box, or you tell Nuno to whip in across and you have a trailing midfielder like Guendouzi. So with that one shot that we had, I thought that was the game plan. I thought whether it's Nuno, you whip the ball in, Cancellieri, a little bit of height, Tati who can win a ball or two, like bring the ball down, and then you have a trailing midfielder just put in an extra body into the box and find them. And we did it one time, and that was that. And there was some space given because of the way Como was pressing us. And again, we did it the one time, and it works, and we score a goal, and we never really see any of that. It just seemed like, a combination of, yes, the way which I thought one of the things that you expect from Sadi is you're just going to out tactically perform the other side, especially a young manager like Cesc Fabregas. But we had no ideas, and it did seem like we were overwhelmed. Like we were very overwhelmed. And so if I am, and we can get into this a little bit, I'll give my 3 words, but if there's any positive or like if I want to throw the spin cycle on this to like hopefully give me a reason to believe it can be different, is that we didn't have Rovella, and we know, like, we didn't have the 2 guys that I think you and I agree are the MVPs. We both said Romagnoli is our most important, our MVP. We dubbed him. We projected him to be our MVP. And we'll talk about individual performances. And while there was nothing to really complain about with our center back performances, Romagnoli is a leader, and there's just a difference. And then you don't have Rovella. And we saw the change once he came in on just being a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker to make some of those passes. I do think that if I'm looking at what we can do to be better, we are not a side that can afford to lose 2 or 3 of our starting 11. And, Isaacson is a starter. I don't, that's another player. And then Provedel, like we can argue, like we were without our starting goalkeeper, but, so I think I do think there are some things that we can do to hopefully bring us a little bit of hope. But my 3 words for this one to describe this match, I really struggled here, but in the end, when I think about where the problems lie, midfield disaster class. It was, again, when I come down to just everything that went wrong, or if we're talking individual performances that we hated the most, it was midfield. It was midfield. We were completely lost. It felt like we were playing without a midfield. It felt like our midfield didn't necessarily understand what to do or where to go and how to connect. And so I just was really disappointed with what that midfield looked like. So
and let me ask you something too as well. How did you feel about like the effort and sort of the energy of the players today. Because just my perspective, and I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing it wrong. I wanted to hear your perspective on it. It seemed like we were just very lackadaisical. I don't know what that word is. It just seemed
Lackadaisical. Yeah, I mean,
it's super. I looked around and I would sometimes see one guy run at a time, and then everyone else just kind of stood still. And I was like, man, like what? I don't know. I didn't even from someone like Guendouzi, who is the guy who covers the most ground for us easily. He actually had the least amount of guys of ground covered between our three midfielders today. So that was just odd for me. I'm like, to me it felt Lazio were very much in the tempo of preseason, but
it
if
definitely
I'm
felt
mistaken
like
in
a
that,
preseason match. Now, I think
it also super sloppy. I mean, that goes
the
also for like the
sloppiness
sloppiness
was
and
was without question. You saw it in missed passes. Like those are the things we can measure. Like the missed passes. I thought that there was just an inability to handle the pressure, which is so odd because I think that's one of the things that I was looking forward to. Is like, okay, they're high pressing, they're swarming, they're throwing three bodies on anybody with the ball. The Saudi side usually with that fast passing we can break through it and maybe play a ball over top and get out of there and have that counter-attacking opportunity. I wasn't worried about the lack of possession. So
yeah.
the whole time I was like, that's fine. That is perfectly fine, particularly with the Saudi side. And I thought we could break that, but we never got comfortable and we were so slow moving the ball. Now, in terms of like effort, I saw early on, like I noted, I really liked some of the early effort from Cancellieri. I thought he was like, there was a couple moments where like he got a little bit unlucky, but he was going in for some challenges. He was dropped deep, and while he wasn't like particularly like great, I mean, he didn't have a ton of opportunities. I was like, okay, like he's in there, he's kind of fighting a little bit of that what you want to see from your right wing that we know Sadi asks for and demands for is dropping back. And I thought I saw that. I liked that. I thought Nuno and Zaccagni were kind of in the mix. Again, like you saw a lot in attack. Zaccagni kind of up and down today, but I still, even in the like his foolish yellow card, I was like, okay, but he's running back and he's slide tackling. I wish he'd done.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot from our center backs. Just kind of sprinting back and recovering, but it I don't know, all when I think about, I mean, it was odd. It was just really odd. Even Tati, right? Like Tati was
Yeah.
nowhere to be found. And
Yeah,
at
well,
least
even pressing wise, Tati wasn't like
that's what I
as
mean. Like pressing wise, he
yeah,
wasn't there. He wasn't dropping back.
weird.
Usually it's like, oh, he'll be on the ball. He'll find a way to be
Hmm.
on the ball. And
Yeah,
it was like, I don't know where he was. So I don't
yeah.
know. It definitely seemed like a preseason match, which is odd because we've had like for the first time in a while we had like good preseason matches. So I just don't know if they were just completely overwhelmed. Um,
It
yeah,
would it would particularly stood out because Como was just so energetic, and they did not let up the entire game.
no, they
Like,
didn't.
I mean, it did not stop. Like,
They're up
I'm like,
2-0 and they were pressing and pressing and pressing and
and I
pressing, and
was
we couldn't
like,
break.
I know our team may lack some of the quality of technical ability, finishing, creating chances. But one thing that the reason I think we were able to push for so long last season is because we had an actual team that tried to put an effort together as a unit. Like, what I'm saying? Like, we may not have the upper end talent of the top Serie A teams or even some of the teams like like a Fiorentina or Como, but one thing we have been able to rely on is okay, well, at least like they'll at least run themselves to the ground, and we can as a unit. But I didn't see that today, and it's weird. I don't know if this is a side instruction. I didn't know if it was they just like you said, we're just kind of overwhelmed with like blitzed and just didn't really know how to react and couldn't recover from just getting blitzed by Como. But anyways,
Yeah, I think them being blitzed played a big role when I think about that midfield unit as well. Again, if I'm trying to frame it in a way that's like hopeful, I go, it's a unit that hasn't played together.
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
That's true.
last
Yeah.
year it's Rovella Gendouzi, and then
Yeah.
that third option kind of changes, and so now you've got Dele Bashiru,
Mm-hmm.
in maybe a new role, in a 4-3-3, and then he doesn't have Rovella. It's Cataldi who's different, and so again, I saw a little bit of the change when Rovella came in there. He's such
It did.
an
Yeah.
important part of this side. Yeah, let's go into the positive. Give me your man of the match.
Tavares, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought Tavares was he was solid defensively. I think he actually won most of the duels. No goals, no real. I mean, yes, like that one goal, it maybe had a fault, but I thought that was just a brilliant individual play from Como to set up that first goal and that ball in behind. Um, but I think Tavares was if we were again, it goes back to last season, similar in that if we were going to create anything, it's going to come from that side and primarily from Tavares. And um, I think even looking at his stats here on FotMob, uh, he easily probably had the most expected assist stats, like in terms of just creating opportunities. Had some good crosses, had some decent dribbles, was decent on defense. Like, unfortunately, he was it was an okay performance, but the whole team was just mostly bad. So even an okay performance, this wouldn't warrant you a man of the match in a different type of game. But that's kind of the level we're at today.
Yeah. I had Nuno as mine as well, and kind of a special shout out to Profsgaard, for his
Yeah,
first
huge. Yeah.
start in a match where again we were we were under fire, and Como never let up, and so I thought, by and large, like he did a really really nice job. I know you had kind of given him a shout um, to be a player that can be a part of the rotation and like step up when we need. So I think today was a really solid performance by him. Very happy with what we have in the young Dane, but overall, I thought it was pretty clear that it was essentially Nuno in the attack with Zakani having some moments, but never a match that we would claim that they were your man of the match outside of one today where everybody else is pretty poor. So
Yeah. I like the shot out there. I think Proskard showed like he's ready for this level. I think he's been impressive and has some good passes. Overall, I was really pleased because
yep,
at the end of the day, like Romagnoli is only getting, we still got a good few years of him left at prime, but it's good to know to have another left footed option there that we can put in instead of like a Patrick at this
yeah,
stage. You know?
yep. And look again with the loss of Romagnoli, I don't know. I'm trying to like figure out why it went so bad and why there was any lack of. And I gotta think that Romagnoli helps, right? In terms of like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, or here's how we're supposed to play, or hey guys, like this is just the communication just seemed really off in trying to just get out. It was so off. So without a
Yeah.
Rovella, without a Romagnoli, I gotta think it gets better with those guys. Again, Osgard played admirably, but in terms
Yeah.
of having somebody that's going to be dictating where's that pressure coming from? Move the ball quicker, get here.
Hmm.
I don't know that he's ready for that, and we were most certainly lacking. So let's shift to our bidone. I'm sure we've got a lot of names on that, and we can probably debate this one a little bit, but yeah, I struggle because for me it was an entire midfield unit. If I could give it
Yeah.
to a unit, I would say our midfield was a bidone, but
Hmm.
I'll give it to Gendouzi, and my tiebreaker
Oh
goes to
my.
Gendouzi for one reason. My expectations are a lot higher from him, and so we can talk about Dele Bashiru, who I thought was maybe the most invisible player, particularly in the first half. We can talk about the difference between Cataldi and Rovella, but Gendouzi is one of our consistent players. Like we know,
Hmm.
you typically know what you're going to get from Gendouzi, and this is 2 seasons now, It's a manager who he thrived under, and for him to have the type of performance, really, really disappointing. Because I thought he had a moment, he had enough moments, and it was an opportunity for him to kind of grasp a leadership opportunity and in some way, shape, or form change what was happening, and we just didn't see it from him. So
Yeah, no, I agree. It was Guendouzi for me as well, but I'll take it a step further and say, even outside of expectations, just strictly comparing um, what they provided. Guendouzi, at the very least, Guendouzi didn't even do the bare minimum of cover ground in this game, and he wasn't completing at passes. He had the worst passing accuracy of all the midfielders today. He had the least amount of duels won. Didn't win any engagements, and then on the attacking side, I mean,
he had the one shot, which was a really, really soft attempt.
So even like outside of just expectations we have of him, I mean, this is for me like this is just a bad midfield showing period for any center mid at this level in Serie A. But again, I just like you said, the unit was really the big. There was no they weren't in sync, and this a factor could very well be they just haven't played together all that much. But I do think it improved under Rovella. I think when Rovella came in, the positioning, the linking, and how quickly the ball was moving was improving already. Remember that was introduced into the match, but I'm concerned because the area where we need guys to take that next step up is in guys like Guendouzi and Bashiru. Like Katadi was always seen as a depth guy. Like if he's solid, he's reliable. That's what we need out of him. But guys like Guendouzi and then Bashiru, and then going to like Tati, all these different types of players, we really need them to take steps forward this season because we don't have new players. Because we don't have, in theory, upgrades that we could have gotten in the window. So unfortunately, like I strongly believe the midfield will dictate how far we go this season in Serie A. If these guys take a step forward, I think we can be a solid side. But if we get in performances like this, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
And again, look,
panicking.
There's, and I think there are things that we mentioned that can be changed, that should be changed, that give us a little bit of hope. You put Rovella in there.
Yeah.
Pedro, I think in a match like this, I do think Pedro, even as the starter, would have provided more in a match like this than Tati. It's particularly if Tati. I mean, he was nowhere. It was an odd Tati match. And to Tati's credit, he gets the one opportunity. It was the anti-Tati match, right? Usually it's like Tati's kind of involved and then doesn't finish. This one is like there's no sign of Tati, and then he gets that chance and he finishes. It's ruled offside, which is the story of Tati. Like, it's so unfortunate. It sucks. Even when it's not in, you're like, of course it happens, right? But like today was the anti-Tati match where I just think you saw a little bit more and maybe it was I don't know, it was too predictable, and Pedro brings a little bit of more unpredictability because you kind of see him across the front three. He's playing in a false nine. Sometimes he's on the wing. Sometimes he's all the way back playing a little 1-2 with Rovella. So yeah, I we'll see. We've got Verona next week, which we know better than to expect anything to be easy, but it does at least give us an opportunity to reset, get this lineup right, and start figuring out what that identity looks like.
Yeah, and I'll add today, I saw some words from Saudi post match that I think are maybe worth sharing, and maybe we can dissect it a little bit about what he maybe means by this. But this is a very rough translation. But basically, in his quote, one thing that stood out to me says, "I saw a technical difference that I expected, but not at these levels. We hope it was a bad day for us because this is reality. We're not in a very good place." So it sounds to me that he actually believed that Como's midfield was a more technically sound midfield, which I think is fair. Like Paz and some of the players.
Yeah.
And I just find it interesting that like Sadi also recognizes like this a team a coach who's generally had very technical players and has required technical players in the midfield particularly. I'm a little concerned, or it's a little worrying that he also himself sees his midfield as not really technically there, and so I'm just curious to see how he changes his style and sort of adapts to be able to account for that. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
and look, this is why, I mean, especially with the midfield trio that we had, I just think it's a bad combination. Dele Bashiru is not. We said it in our preview. Like, he's not your technical player. Like, he's going to be used in a way that's like, hey, if you want to out physical, and you
And
want to put him in
also,
position. Go
and
ahead.
real quick, you said that, and also he's very much a guy that should not be building up in most
Right.
cases. Like, for example, like when he's been at his best, it was in Baroni. He played that attacking midfielder in like Europa League at times, but he can progress the ball. But he is more so like, give me the ball like in sort of the in and around the final third, and I'll try and outpace or I'll
He'll
beat some
outpace or
guy.
outstrength somebody,
Yeah,
right? When he's
exactly.
like, or if he's in some of those pockets and Zakani and Nuno are there and he makes a run, but he's
Right,
not going to
right,
be your
exactly.
number 10 in that attack. And people think that, if he's in a centrocampista role, or he's in that
Not a 10, no,
10,
that's for
like,
sure.
he's not Luis Alberto, and he's
No.
not going to play or dribble. And so now you combine that with Genduzi, who also isn't the most technical player, and
Mm-mm.
plus Cataldi today was a lot more drop back. And so now you've got two eights essentially with no real technical ability. It's no wonder why there was nothing happening. So I don't like that trio. So
Mm.
if you give me Rovella, Cataldi, Genduzi, or you give me Rovella, Dele Bashiru, Genduzi, or you give me Belayan in that mix, I start to feel a lot better. I think
Mm.
Belayan today, if you're going to start, Cataldi would have been better than Dele Bashiru.
I think this is a great game for Belayan. I was
Yeah.
really disappointed not to see him today.
Yep.
I thought this was the ideal game because Belayan seems to be the most press resistant
Yep.
of the guys available that we had. So for me, I was like, I mean, Rovella helped, but I did think that like 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 you said, Dele Bashiru, he can beat the press, but he will outmuscle them, but then he needs an outlet. He needs someone to come and pick up that ball from him. He can hold on to it. Belayan is someone that I think is just a little quicker on the turn, a little more silky on the ball. I think we really could have used him today. So I was disappointed not to see him once,
Yeah.
like last
So again,
season
it
too.
gives us, we can at least look at it. And Belayan, I think, was out for the last preseason match, if I'm not mistaken. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, okay, maybe
Mhm.
it was just a series of being really unfortunate in that Rovella was out, right?
Mhm.
Romagnoli was out, Belayan was out,
Yeah.
Isaacson's been out. We are not positioned to be able to have important guys out, or
Yeah.
anybody. Forget being important. Like, transfer block, we couldn't bring it. Like, we don't have that luxury. So it was just really, really tough. So this is either an indication of what's going to come, or we are able to make some of those changes. It's only one match in, so there's, it would be foolish just to like panic. And I know the panic is going to happen, but I still think we have enough. I still think I need to see our best lineup in order for us to panic, right? If today had happened and we've got that full side and it's all, disastrous and we're 3, 4, 5 matches into it, okay. But I still am holding out for a little bit of hope.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
big one next week already. Just in terms of us kind of feeling out what this side looks like. But it's important points that were dropped against a side who many claim to be a team that will be fighting for European spots. So for any chance of Europe, we just lost ground to one of the teams, but
Yeah.
it's already off to a very, very interesting Serie A start with Milan losing to Cremonese. At the time of recording, Pisa is up on Atalanta.
Oh,
So
wow.
already some very interesting results around the league. So as always, we will be here live after every match to break down, chat, and of course go through this with you, our Laziali. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We again are live on YouTube immediately after the match. Shortly after, all of the audio versions of this will be uploaded to wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a follow, like, subscribe, and give us those 5-star ratings. As always, Sam